PRANCE life was founded by the revelation that life in fact is eternal, because life actually is the eternal God. And therefore, it's only likely that life could end if God himself could. But since he can't, by virtue that he neither has a beginning, but is that self-existent substance of vitality, it's only reasonable to speculate that all of life proceeds from said origin. And it's even more reasonable to further surmise that the life which proceeds from that origin is due to life inherent within that origin. Namely, it's life who begets life. And so life, being this all-sufficient source, is it not all but unqualified to be the one known as God? Hence, life is eternal because life is God. And life is God because God is life. Now I know what you might be thinking. If life is eternal, then how come life as we know it ends in death? Well, what if I told you that the solution isn't a question of life's ending, but rather that of death's beginning? The Bible tells us in the book of Romans that the wages of sin is death. And this is good news for those of us whose hope is contingent upon the prospect of living. How so? Because the provision of an alternative causality absolves life from suspicion of treachery, meaning we're no longer obligated to accept the absurdity that death is inevitable of life, at which point it may behoove us to allow the nature of life to be consistent with its name, and to attribute death to its rightful culprit. So what exactly is this sin thing then? And how did it come about, if not from the nucleus of life? Well, as the gateway for death, it's no mystery that sin essentially is the action of rejecting life. Even though we know the ability to reject a thing is made possible by the one undeniable fact of life: free will. So, wait a minute. If free will is a fact of life, and free will makes it possible to reject life, which in turn invites death, doesn't that circle back to life as the perpetrator of death? Not when the point of free will is the delegation of the authority for one to choose, leaving our realization of life up to us to consummate. It's kind of like a marriage proposal. You can either say yes, or you can say no, but you can't say that you weren't asked. So we see it's not life who all of a sudden stops being life simply because death is made inevitable in the event that we elect to exercise our free will to reject life's proposal. However, it's our choice to reject life that makes death inevitable for us. Such was the beginning of our end. The implications here are far too compelling to dismiss. For one, life apparently is intentional about being recognized as life, that is, which means it has a will. And two, since life can be intentional, it may be inclined to effect its intent through methodological means. So along with a will, life has a way in the will which can most readily be suspected to establish life, so that any infraction of life's will and way will inevitably result in the deficiency of life's manifestation, i.e., death. In summary, life didn't just become eternal when God had promised it to those who would believe in his only begotten Son. The life he had promised always was eternal, because the life he was promising was himself, who by reputation is the only viable source that the disposition of our creation requires.